Welcome to the Clear to Close podcast with your host, local mortgage expert Ryan Bolton. Ryan has the questions and answers, tips and tricks, do's and don'ts, and expert guests to explain all the steps needed to buy or sell real estate. And now it's time for the Clear to Close podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to the Clear to Close podcast. Today, I have a very special guest with me with Alta Bank. And you've been there about how long? You said you was about
3 years.
About 3 years. That's amazing. You were with America First for a long time. So people might recognize the name, might recognize the face, if you will, from the years and years at America First. So this is Randy Hardy. He is the construction loan specialist for Alta Bank, which in St. George, we have a lot of construction going on. So I'm sure you've been really, really busy with that. But it's Parade Week. So the Parade of Homes is a really big event here in Southern Utah. This is where you have a lot of the builders showcase their specialty, showcase some of their big homes. And I understand you were a president. Was it president, or what involvement did you have with the Parade of Homes?
So great question. So I've been involved with the Southern Utah Home Builders Association for since 2008, and in a variety of capacities. So served on the board as a board of director a few years ago, on multiple committees with the Parade of Homes, and so. Since 2008, I've been involved, and so have seen it over the years, and just it's amazing.
During that time, what was the year that had like the most homes? I hear this year's one of the higher levels that they've had in a while.
Yeah,
but I always get about 25. I would say,
yes.
Is that pretty average?
25 is the number now this year. They had 30 on their anniversary of their 30th year anniversary a few years ago, and so generally it's mid 20s to as much as the 30 homes or thereabouts, and just. An incredible event for sure.
Yeah, what I really like about this Parade of Homes, if many people know about it in Southern Utah, I think it's funny how many people know, because it's a big event. You see the signs all over, you see the little markers of where to go just all over town. And I found that how they map people and like drive people through town, it's almost fun just going on the parade just to kind of see new areas of St. George maybe you haven't been to. Because I find a lot of people, if they're on this side of Bluff Street or that side of Bluff Street, they never go to the other side of Bluff Street. You know what I mean?
That's true.
So this gives you a chance to go down to maybe Warner Valley or go down to some of these areas, Hurricane, that you may not have been to in a while. And you go out there and just go, wow, look at all this development. Look at all these changes.
Yeah, for sure.
So how do they find out that map? Is it just something they've tried and true over years, or they have to map it out every year?
Yeah, so they have to map it out every year because, again, the location of homes changes. And so they actually have a committee specific to that process of the parade. And so that's what they do, is that's their job, is to task to direct the route from home 1 to home 25 and, set up all the signs, right, like you said, and GPS coordinates. And so that can be a challenge too with newer areas. Sometimes the GPS coordinates don't work all the time, and things of that nature. So
like the street name's not there yet or something like that. Yeah, because a lot of stuff is brand new developments, model homes in some of these subdivisions. And you see a real variety, but most of them are pretty fancy homes. You're getting into areas you may never get into, like Split Rock areas, Entrada, Cayenta. You're getting to some of these areas that you may never see. And what I really like too is you get to see what the builders are putting in, what innovations, what technologies, and design. I remember a few years ago when everything was going Alexa or going in, home automation, like you're on the Enterprise or something like that, where you can just yell out Siri or Alexa and turn on all your stuff. In fact, I wonder if Freddie Mac, do you have anything tied to Alexa in here that we can just yell and turn off your whole system? But it's amazing how much even in our house we've started adding some of those just because we went to a parade house.
Right. Yep, for sure. I mean, it's amazing. Yep. Absolutely.
How many are pre-sold? Is this something where a lot of them are already owners, or a lot of them model homes, or what would you say is it a good blend of both?
So that's a great question. It's a good blend of both, and that changes from year to year. But I remember looking at the numbers, because you can see in the magazine which homes are for sale, which ones are sold. But I would say, it's about 50-50-ish today, or, for this year. Okay. And, but yeah.
What qualifies to be in the parade? Is it something where, obviously you have to be a member of SUBA, which is an abbreviation for the Southern Utah Home Builders Association. Yeah. So that's obviously number one. Yeah. But is it something where, what's the process for a builder to even get a home in the parade?
It's hard.
Is it?
It's hard. Yeah. So, because there's such a demand, right? And so the builders within the association, SUBA, they can earn parade points, which go towards their positioning to be able to get a spot in the parade. And so their involvement with different activities, different events. And so it's hard. It is hard. There's even a waiting list every year, beyond what's actually in the parade. And so, it's a big demand.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Now, is there any other qualifications as far as the house itself, or can they build a manufactured home or a $10 million home. It always seems like they're the higher end homes.
Yeah.
It seems like the ones that get in these parades.
Yeah.
But I've seen some that are in that lower, more affordable. I think did the college? I think the college had one that was part of their program teaching kids how to build the houses was in one parade one year.
So that's with the Washington County School District.
Okay.
So Careers in Construction, they've got a home again this year in the parade.
Okay.
And so that's probably the most affordable home this year. But typically it's going to be single family stick built homes. It's not going to be manufactured homes, but there is a wide range. And so if you look at this year, like I said, the school district home, the Washington County School District home, I think the square footage is about 1,700 square feet. It's in the low 600s. So that's on the low end, but again, still great quality, more affordable. And then this year, the most expensive home is $8 million.
Oh, wow.
And 12,000 square feet.
Is that the most expensive ever so far? Or was there? I don't know if there's been one that high.
That's
in
a
the
good
past.
question.
That might be one we'll have to check, because I remember
Yeah.
there was one that broke the record at like 6. It was like the most expensive home in Washington County. So 8 has definitely jumped up that much more. And is there a cap? It sounds like 30. Do they try to cap it at like the 25, or is it more just based on those points, those merits?
Yeah. So I think, it looks, I think they want to not, saturate it, but give enough opportunity. So it varies anywhere, like I said, between, the mid 20s to, as many as 33 or 30 when they had the anniversary in that year. So they do cap it, and what goes into that, I'm not sure exactly.
I think some of it's got to be that they have to have the home ready. Obviously, it can't be a home that's not done by the time the parade rolls around.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of guys in construction, they just for that month beforehand, they're not doing anything but finishing the houses because they have to get stuff done during that time frame.
So the association, they have 2 inspections prior to the parade. And so they have a first inspection that happened last week. I'm on that committee. And so, there's a certain standard that they have to meet to have the home, to that point with that inspection. And then there's a second final inspection, which just happened yesterday.
Is that part of C of O's type stuff? It's not like a city or permit thing. No. It's more of the standard.
Yeah. So for sure, in the end, they do have to have a C of O, but it's more of a SUBA standard, the parade standard. And I think that's what makes this parade great, is the quality. And then again, having the home showcase ready so that they're not, scrambling or having challenges with homes that aren't finished. And, in some years they'll have some parade builders that were planning on being in the parade. They end up having to drop out their position because of, just things that have been out of their control with trying to get the home completed. And so there's an opportunity either, for one of those, waiting builders on the waiting list to be able to step in and be able to have, that spot filled that way.
Is that where I've seen sometimes the homes are right next to each other? Is that kind of sometimes maybe one has fallen out, or they really do plan to have 2 in the parade?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of variables both ways, in that way. There's even some builders, again, that will have, this was going to be our designated home in the parade. We identified that at the beginning, but then again, as things, variables that come into play that they couldn't get that home completed, they've got another home, that same builder, in a different area or project and able to showcase that one instead.
Or you'll see it where they're just modeling a subdivision. So they got the model home that's in the parade, but they got other homes that aren't necessarily in the parade, but they're right next door. So you see people just kind of walking around the other homes that are available. Have you seen the economic impact of this? I mean, how many people... I don't know if there's another one in Utah that is more attended, more well done, more well run for years. Because even Heber had to start saying, hey, how's St. George doing a great job? We're going to start modeling. And there's so many similar things that they've done because of how well St. George does it. But how many people come into town? What kind of economic impact is this?
So great question. So on any given year, it's about 30 to 40,000 people that attend the parade. And so just as you said, I mean, not only locally here in the state of Utah, but nationally recognized for the population that we have and the attendance that we have in our parade. I mean, it's, the Parade of Homes, St. George Area Parade of Homes has won, awards being one of the best designated parade of, homes in the country.
That's cool.
Believe it or not.
That's
cool. So, when you look at that, the number that attend, I mean, then, 30 to 40,000 and about 50% or so actually come from outside the area of Washington County. Okay. So they're bringing dollars in to stay. The parade goes for 10 days. They're spending money on lodging, food and obviously entertainment with the parade, but then that filters over to other, businesses, and it's a huge impact. There was a number that I think I heard, but I'm going to quote it.
Okay.
So I think, the parade has been in business, open since 1991.
Okay.
And then there's an estimate that the economic impact for Washington County since that point in time is like $1.3 billion to the local economy. So huge number each year, and I
see it for playing golf. You'll see that not only is February a great time to be in St. George, great time to great time to showcase the area, but you get a lot of people that say, hey, we're going to make a golf trip out of this and we're also going to go. And a lot of times I'd be in the parade, I'd be in the booth, or I'd be in the garage. And I found a lot of locals were kind of the second wave. It was like that opening weekend parade, President's Day weekend, that kind of Friday to Monday seemed to be a lot more out of towners. And then it would be more locals that were going around that were just checking on it. How often, with you, how often did you go out and look at all the homes? Is it something where you try to catch them all every year, or do you just kind of spotlight maybe some that you see in the magazine or on the website? So
great question. It's been a variety. There's been years where we've literally, through my work or, with my spouse and my family, that we've been able to see every single home in the parade. That's tough. It's exhausting, when you spend, going from home to home, a lot of walking and in and out of the car but yeah.
I think St. George has done a good job. Well, again, with the way they map it out, they don't have to get it in really high congested areas. They don't want to get it off the Washington exit or some things. They try to find ways around it. But I found that as you go through the parade, you'll kind of be seeing the same groups kind of going on the parade.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny how, hey, you following me? I'm following you. How do you like the house? You end up meeting people in a way that just seems funner. And you're going to some of the most beautiful areas in southern Utah. The way they film it, the way they get the drones, cameras, and the work that they've done, the way they decorate the homes. I mean, they're really trying to showcase the whole thing. But I've just always been impressed with how well received it really is in southern Utah, more than other parades, or even in the state. Now, nationally, even like you said, it's recognized nationally as such a big deal.
Yeah.
But it is something I always was curious on how they get these homes in the parade. Now, how far ahead of time do they have to designate a home, a lot? And I know sometimes the builders will say, okay, lot 1, lot 10 or whatever is going to be our parade house. I mean, is it something, how ahead of time? Because most of these homes are these $1 million homes. They take 6 months plus to build these things.
Yeah. So right now, we already know what homes are designated, what builders are designated for next year, for 2025. Okay. So it's a year in advance.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
And you just earn the points the year before and that kind of stuff, and be able to make sure it works.
To get positioning, and they also, they designate a certain number of builders in the parade, based on those parade points, and then they leave a couple spots open that allow for them to bid, or it's open bids as well.
Oh,
and so if one of those builders that doesn't have enough, parade points to generate to have a spot, there's still an opportunity for them to basically place a bid to get one of those leftover spots there.
Or like I said, if it doesn't get finished or something like that, so I've seen times where you have a buyer that wants a home a certain way, and maybe there's something that delays it or something, and that's why they can't meet the deadlines of it. But I've got a couple electrician friends, framer friends, and man, they kind of call it their tax season. They're saying, don't even talk to me about golf or anything else or side jobs or anything. I've got to get this house done by this particular date, especially when you want to have it done even a little bit before that.
For sure.
That way, does a builder get more than one house? Is it something where they can designate other, if they have the points?
Yeah.
Are they able to do multiple subdivisions that they're working on?
So great question. Yes, but they essentially have to be under different names. So you'll see the same builder, like, XYZ of Southern Utah and, XYZ of whatever.
Okay.
So they can. It's not too common. Usually there's maybe 1 or 2 different companies that will have 2 homes in the parade in that way. But it's not super common. Because
a lot of times they're focusing on maybe one subdivision or one home that they're really trying to showcase.
It's a lot of work to get one home done by the parade. 2 just compounds that, for sure.
Yeah, because you'll use, like, Desert Color seem to have a little bit more, Entrada will have more, but it will be different builders.
Yep.
So it'll be in that Split Rock, Entrada type area. But it's really, it's fascinating to watch how much St. George is getting on the map. This is one of those other things that really showcases southern Utah. For better or for worse, some people don't want all the growth and don't want all the people coming into town. But we just get more and more discovered with Ironmans, parades, marathons, the PGA out at Black Desert. I don't think they have anything in the parade. I don't think anything's quite done out at the Black Desert Resort yet.
Not yet, no.
But I'm sure they're going to try to get something in next year when they do it, because the golf tournament's in October. So that's just going to put another spotlight on such a wonderful area to live in.
It does.
So just describe your background a little bit on the personal side. So you've been in lending for how long? You do construction loans, correct?
So great question. I've been in lending for about 20 years, doing all array of mortgage financing, purchase, refinance, reverse mortgages, and construction lot financing. And so these past 3 years, like I said, went to Alta Bank and just a construction specialist. So residential construction, that's what I do, and lot and land loans. Yeah. So
it's got to be great working with Sue, but you got to have some good connections with some of these builders. Were you able to finance any of these parade homes, or a lot of them were pre-sold in some cases? But did you get any in the?
Yeah, great question. So me personally, not this year, have in years past, but as a company, we have a home builder finance division that does a lot of the acquisition and development, and then also vertical stuff as well. And so in that channel, we have financed a couple homes this year and multiple years thereafter as well.
Great.
So
that's great. Yeah. I always get questions about lot loans. As you have people that are looking at these parade homes, they say, "Oh, I really like that house. We need to buy a lot." Is most of it tied into the construction loan? So you kind of, at your first draw is to cover the land, or do you do just standalone lot loans?
Yeah, so you can do both. So
Okay.
you can do a construction loan to purchase the land as well. The hurdle or the challenge in doing that is you've got to have a house plan identified, you got to have a builder identified, and then a cost breakdown.
Okay.
And so sometimes to be able to meet the deadlines within the contract of purchasing the lot, there's not enough time to get those other 3 pieces of information to be able to purchase the lot with the construction loan. So that's where the lot loan individually comes into play. You know, if they're crunched for time to do that they can secure the lot, you know, and then take the time to say, okay, this is the plan we like, this is the builder we want. They work the, you know.
How long are those lots loans usually? Because I see a lot of them are shorter term. They're not designed to be a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. They are designed to be short term. So if you just do a standalone lot loan, what's kind of the term before you have to roll it into a construction loan?
So great question. We have 2 terms, 2 options. The first one is a 30-year calculated payment with a 3-year balloon.
Oh,
so
3
again,
years.
3 years to roll that into construction.
Okay.
The other second option is a full 15-year term.
Okay. So 15-year loan, 15-year term. Okay.
Exactly.
So this is probably somebody maybe retiring and they're not sure and they just want to lock up a piece of land and do a, how much money down on something like this? What's kind of the standard down payment for just the lot loan?
Yeah. So a minimum down payment on a lot loan is 25%.
Okay.
That's up to a loan amount of $500,000.
Okay.
So that should cover,
Most
lot loans. But we do lot loans with no limit, you know, so I've financed some very expensive lots beyond that. And so the down payment does go up based on, you know, anything above that $500,000, but the minimum is 25%.
Okay.
So
that's great. I've seen a lot. That's changed obviously as the market demands and as investors are more comfortable with that type of financing. Because I saw a lot of them are 6-month or 1-year loans. So having kind of a 3-year window, really make sure you have time to vet out a builder, architect plans. Yeah. Or if you're going to retire and not quite ready to move forward with it, that seems to be a great option. So how much on the construction loan things, what's kind of a standard term for the construction loan? So you've got the lot, now you're going to roll it into a construction loan. What's kind of a standard term for a construction loan?
Yeah, so great question. So as far as, you know, the construction loan term itself is typically 12 months. So they have that time frame to build. Our policy at the bank is we can get extensions beyond that if more time is needed to complete the home, up to an additional full year. So in theory, one could have 2 full years to build if it was required more time to complete the home. And so
seems like a year. I would think a year is pretty common, right? Do you really run into extensions a lot on those, or is it something where you, I guess it depends on the home too?
Yeah, it depends on the home. There's a lot of variables that come into play with construction, with supply constraints. You know, weather can be an issue. You know, subs. You know, getting subcontractors to a job, like you said, just there's a lot of variables that can delay things. But usually, you know, the area it's being built in, you know, stuff that's being built up in Bryan Head or in the, you know, the real winter season areas, they, you know, kind of shut down the, you know, the exterior stuff. So they try to beat, you know, that weather and get it dried in and then during the winter finish it out. But so, yeah, location can have an impact, you know, and then the size of the home, of course. And
so I run across a lot I don't do a lot of construction loans. That's why I like working with you. You've been great over the years to be able to just send, because you got to kind of specialize in construction loans because it's a loan that has draws and schedules and you have to kind of, you can't draw out 50% of the construction loan if the home's only 10% done.
Right.
So you have to make sure you kind of schedule those draws as you're moving through it. But what I have a lot of people ask me about lot loans, just straight lot loans, because they haven't gotten a builder yet, or they just want to lock it up, especially during the parade. You know, they want to get something locked up. The other thing I get is owner builder. You get so many times where somebody's a plumber and they think, well, I got all these buddies that can do all this stuff. And I always tell them, I said, yes, every friend's going to tell you they can do it.
Yeah.
But as soon as it's trade or money and they've got a job they got to finish over here and they got your job that's a buddy deal, guess which job they're going to do first?
You're not the priority.
You're not going to be the priority. And sometimes you can't get it cheaper. But other times, because you're only doing one house and a builder's working with somebody that's doing 10 houses, they get volume discounts. I really encourage people that are owner builders, especially if they're in the industry, to still make sure you have contingencies, make sure you give yourself a little extra time. But I have not had one person, whether they're plumber, electrician, framer, that says, oh, I can build that house for X. And it never gets built for that. It never does. So do you allow for financing for owner builders? I know that can be a little bit of a harder thing to finance as well.
So that's a great question. So historically, yes. But as of, you know, since COVID, no. And so part of the reason for that is just what you described is, you know, we saw large builders being cut off from suppliers of getting lumber, trusses, all sorts of, you know, materials and product. And so, and then also talking about getting subs to a job. Again, like you just described, if you're an owner builder, you don't have those relationships that builders do
to
get them and make them a priority. And so The bank has taken a step back and just said, you know what, right now we're not doing owner builder.
That's a lot. That's not just you guys. That's almost everybody has that caveat, unless there's more money down, or they want to know they're an actual general contractor, not just a sub that has buddies that do that are in the industry or that type of thing.
So that's the one exception. So we can do an owner builder if they've got a general contractor's license, and have history and experience of building a home rather than just trade work. So
and you're so true. And even you might save on some labor. It won't get done as quickly, and you won't get the volume discounts that some of the other builders can get when they're ordering 100 doors and they're ordering 5 houses to be stuccoed and roof and trusses and all that kind of stuff. And like you said, the labor shortages, some of the labor costs have gone up so much. I've got some buddies that are framers and they're having the hardest time keeping guys that they're starting at $25 an hour. That used to be the journeyman, used to be the foremans were making that. Now just the guy that's just coming out of high school, coming out of college is making $25 an hour, and they can't keep them. They can't keep them because somebody else is willing to offer them $25.50 or $26 just for one house, and then they just fire them. And they're trying to find work again. And as things kind of ramp up, slow down, that's when you see the cost of the labor has really gone up as well. So people talk about affordable housing a lot, and that's one thing that's going to be a hard thing to make it affordable is not only land more expensive, materials are more expensive, but labor costs have been way more than what anybody anticipated.
Yeah, and there's always fluctuations with, materials, the cost of the supplies, but they're not coming down. There's a little bit, but they're not coming down. And so when you look at what can give, it's the margins on the builder or potentially a subcontractor, and the cost isn't changing much right now, and we'll see what happens. There's still a good demand and, limited supply. And so I think that plays a role in it too. And so, but we're already undersupplied of, homes based on the market in the city. It really is.
There's just not a lot of existing homes going on the market, so builders are trying to make up for that supply requirement, and it's hard for them to get enough materials to build it. But at the same time, they don't want to build so many they get caught holding the bag. So there's just this wait and see mentality out there. If builders don't want to build too much, I remember at one point they were building more than they could even have contracts for because they knew they could sell them. Now they're a little more waiting for at least a contract on it before they start building it. Do you guys do spec home financing where you're just speccing it out? Okay.
Yeah, we do. Yep. So it requires a little bit more down, and the interest rate is the same, which is incredible.
That's really
Alta
good.
Bank. Yeah. Okay. So we provide that. So we can do it on a primary home, second home, or an investment property or a spec.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's changed a little bit too. You think it's gotten more or less aggressive since COVID as far as some of those loan to values and being a little more aggressive with that?
Yeah. Our policy on that has remained the same. It hasn't changed. With the increase in interest rates, that's been, kind of a deterrent, for some investors or, to want to build an investment property that they're financing. And then also qualifying, at the same time.
Right.
So,
right. Yeah, it makes it harder. And so as we talk about supplies going up on a construction loan, is there something built in to make sure if the cost does go up, is there a percentage that you're trying to say, okay, we got to hold back this much to cover interest payments and to cover if labor goes up or wood or concrete or brass or copper or whatever has to go into these things?
Yeah, so we add a contingency. Okay. The contingency is 10% of the hard cost of the home to be built. And so it's just to manage those overages, right? Okay. So it's there if they need it. If they don't use it, they don't pay any interest on it. And their final loan amount is going to be, it's going to be based on what they borrowed. So,
and that's a really unique thing with construction loans as well. If you do a mortgage at $300,000, you're paying interest on the $300,000. With construction loan, you're only paying as you draw. So the first draw might be the lot, maybe the permits, architects, plans, closing costs, that kind of stuff is that first draw. So you're only paying interest on that amount until you add to the next draw.
Correct.
So does that come out of an interest reserve, or do you normally require payments?
Yeah, so great question. So our policy right now does require payments. So it's an interest-only payment. So progressively, as you described, as the home's being built, that payment will go up with time, but it's incremental, and so...
and it's interest only, so just what's interest on and not a principal reduction or anything like that.
Yeah, and the question is always asked, well, how much interest am I going to pay? We really don't know that because we don't know how you're going to draw out.
Right.
And each builder's a little bit different where they draw less frequently. So you're going to probably pay obviously less interest on that type of scenario than someone who's drawing out as much as they can every single month, type of thing. But interest only payments during the build.
How many draws? It's usually 5? Would you say it's kind of 4 to 5? I guess it depends on the builder as well. But
so we send an inspector out to the project twice a month, and so they're monitoring progress of completion. Okay. And so our draws to be approved, they can draw out based on percentage of each line item based on that percentage of completion. So in theory, under our construction loan, a builder borrower, they could request 2 draws a month. It's not too frequent that happens, but I would say, you probably will. It's common to have 1 draw every month. So if they're taking 12 months to build that home, it's 12 draws.
Makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, tell everybody how to get a hold of you and where you're at, phone number. We got a few seconds here left, but go ahead and give your name and phone number.
So Randy Hardy, Alta Bank, phone number 435-817-2901. I'm in our River Road branch, right on River Road. Great location.
The new one over there by
new
Popeyes?
Location, yep.
Do you go to Dutch Brothers every day? I mean, it's right there.
I don't, but I think everyone else in town does. It is amazing.
That's a busy location.
The backup every morning, doesn't matter whether it's morning, afternoon, or night, it is busy.
That's a busy little location.
It's a good location.
Great little location. They got a lot of stuff coming in from there. So appreciate your expertise. If you have any questions on construction loans, now you guys have somebody to go to, but appreciate your time, and we'll catch you next time on the Clear to Close podcast.
Awesome. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah.
This has been the Clear to Close podcast. Please submit your comments, questions, and topics for future episodes to cleartoclosepod@gmail.com. That's clearclosepod@gmail.com or ryanbolton.com. Please like, follow, and share. And until next time, this is the Clear to Close podcast. The views expressed in this podcast do not necessarily reflect those of Patriot Home Mortgage, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 299717.